Senator Hirono, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you both for being here. General Walters, you mentioned something that definitely piqued my interest, and we know that China and Russia have a relationship, and China seeks to expand its influence in Europe. So you mentioned that you are working, I think, much more closely with Admiral Aquilino because of this recognition that things don't just stay in one command theater. So can you talk a little bit more about your increased closer working with Admiral Aquilino?
I can, Senator. We've shared thoughts about what Russia has done with respect to its physical actions in the vicinity of Ukraine and its activities outside of Ukraine with its so-called allies and partners, and the impact that it has on the actual execution. And Admiral Aquilino is obviously very interested in that because he faces a scenario that's reasonably similar to this with respect to Taiwan, and how we examine the U.S. response, the allies and partners' response will help image Admiral Aquilino in working his way through some of the tough spots that we anticipate that he'll have to work with in the future with respect to state-on-state activities and state-on-state alliance activities and state-on-state activities with respect to other partners and allies on the periphery.
It sounds as though this is a more close relationship that you are having with another combatant commander. So is that so? With
Senator,
regard to Indo-PACOM?
I have that same relationship with all the other combatant commanders.
That's good to know. It makes sense. General Van Ovost, it's good to talk with you again. As you're aware, the Department of Defense recently made the decision to defuel and close the Red Hill storage facility on Oahu. And so there will be a transition period. It will take a significant amount of planning and funding for this transition. And last year's NDAA established Transcom as the DoD's bulk fuel manager of the department, which will become effective later this year. As you assume this new role, what will you be focused on to ensure the department's fuel needs are met in the Pacific? And what do you anticipate being the greatest challenge as Red Hill is closed and we move to a more distributed laydown?
Thank you, Senator. As you're aware, there's really multiple studies, analyses, and war games highlighted that our global bulk fuel, our command and control, our distribution, where it's at, access to it, and the infrastructure that supports it are inadequate in this contested environment. Frankly, as the new NDS also states, that the PRC is the most consequential strategic competitor we have. So as we look to the Pacific, we have to do things differently. So what we are doing right now, under the throes of providing a strategy due back to Congress here on 1 October, on how we are looking at the globe with respect to posture, war reserves, our ability to maneuver the force both from an inter-theater standpoint and within the theater to ensure that we have dispersed and diverse, specifically with respect to fuel, to reduce the risk. Indeed, in the decision to defuel Red Hill, we're going to use that as an opportunity to put storage afloat so that we can actually practice techniques and procedures that we would actually use should we have to go to conflict with respect to our inter-theater tankers, doing console operations, and new intra-theater, smaller tankers that we would need to move the fuel forward into theater. So as we look to those CONOPS and developing them and resourcing them will be something we'll be looking forward in the future as the global bulk fuel manager.
Just one more question along those lines. So as we move to a more distributed fuel operations, is there an opportunity to expand investment in places like the compact states to build out a resilient fuel laydown while also building economic cooperation with our compact partners?
Senator, I defer to Admiral Aquilino with respect to specific partners. He has, as you know, a 2B posture that's laid out that is really looking more south and in that area. And from my perspective, we could not do what we do without the commercial partnerships that we have around the world. So we are looking to thicken our partnerships, especially out in the Pacific.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Hirono.